When King Charles's personal garage was finally opened, it wasn't the dust that made them gasp. Instead, it was the disbelief of the king's car collections that he had patiently curated over the decades. What they found wasn't gold-plated engines or supercars, but their eyes widened at something far stranger and completely unexpected from a reigning monarch. What did they see in the monarch's private garage? And why did it take so long for them to open it up? Join us as we explore King Charles's personal garage and the collections that left people in shock. The king's heterogeneous garage. When most people imagine a royal garage, they picture something grand like glossy floors and polished Bentleys parked in perfect rows. But when the doors to the king's private garage were opened, what lay inside was not what anyone expected. The vehicles in question are not housed at Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle. Most are believed to be kept at Highgrove House, King Charles's private residence in Gloucestershire. Highgrove has been his countryside home since 1980, and unlike many royal estates, it reflects his personal priorities, which are sustainability, privacy, and heritage preservation. Though the public rarely gets access, reports from The Guardian, Hot Cars, Autocar, and others have confirmed multiple details about the vehicles the king has stored or personally used at Highgrove. According to a 2023 Guardian report, King Charles' personal car collection is valued at around £6.3 million, separate from state-owned vehicles. The cars are stored in what insiders describe as a converted barn-style garage, located on the estate but out of public view. From the outside, the building looks like any other large stone barn on the estate. With ivy walls and plain doors, you'd never guess what's inside until a step beyond those doors. Then, you will be looking at a carefully curated space that shows a private side of the monarch. At first glance, you might think these are unused relics, forgotten and tucked away, but look closer and you'll notice each car is positioned with care. Nothing is random. And these cars are not at all what you'd expect. Yes, there are British classics, but there are also surprises like electric rides, utility vans, even one or two cars that seem wildly out of place. That's the twist. This garage doesn't just show Charles the King. It shows Charles the man. Environmentally focused, private, sometimes unconventional, but always intentional. What makes the garage so compelling isn't just its contents, but what they also represent. Together, these vehicles tell the story of a man who has lived through the end of the fuel age, embraced clean technology, and adapted royal life to modern expectations. And although no full tour of the interior has ever been filmed or made public, credible reports and photographs give us a clear enough picture to draw one conclusion: that King Charles's garage is a personal archive of his power, creativity, and sentiments, only told through machines. And as each cover comes off, what's underneath doesn't just surprise, but also reveals a different version of royalty. Not one of affluence, but of practicality and purpose. And as you'll soon see, the deeper we go, the stranger and more revealing it becomes. But how creative is a king that has everyone doing everything for him? Mementos of the past. The first car they uncovered was an antique car, a Land Rover Series 3, which was once driven regularly by Prince Philip, Charles's father. The Duke of Edinburgh was known for his deep affection for British automotive engineering, particularly Land Rovers. This one, experts believe, was among the last he used personally before his health declined. The Land Rover hasn't been refurbished or modernized. Its seats remain cracked, and its steering wheel still carries the indent of use. The paint, a dull green, has faded in places, and the metal roof is slightly dented. It's a living memory, preserved exactly as Prince Philip left it. But the next car they saw caught them totally off guard. Parked in the center of the garage, beneath a thick gray cover, was the unmistakable silhouette of an Aston Martin. But this wasn't any Aston Martin. It was the 1969 DB6 Volante Mark II, gifted to Prince Charles by Queen Elizabeth II for his 21st birthday. He's kept it for more than 5 decades, but the real surprise came in 2008, when it was revealed that the vehicle no longer ran on traditional petrol. Instead, King Charles converted it to run on bioethanol, a fuel made from surplus English white wine and cheese whey, a byproduct of the dairy industry. The conversion was done by Aston Martin engineers, using a special E85 blend produced by Gloucestershire-based Green Fuels Limited. According to the company and multiple royal confirmations, the car now produces significantly fewer carbon emissions, reducing its environmental impact by over 80%. In an interview with the BBC in 2021, Charles confirmed the change himself. He explained that while some engineers were skeptical, he insisted on the bioethanol conversion. He said the car runs fine and joked that it smells delicious. The car gained global attention when it was used as the wedding exit car for Prince William and Kate Middleton in 2011. Draped with ribbons and a "Just Married" sign, it carried the newlyweds through the streets of London, powered by Charles's own eco-invention. There is no other known member of any royal family in Europe or beyond who has converted a vintage collectible vehicle to run on biofuel in this way. Today, it's worth over £1.5 million, but its real value is in what it symbolizes. It's the car Charles fell in love with during his youth, the one he used to drive through the winding roads of Cambridge during his university years. And more than 50 years later, it's still in the garage. These cars spark memories of his parents, and they are machines that still work well today. But is his collection only filled with vintage hand-me-down cars? The premium elites. These ones aren't relics but financial statements. They are the kind of machines that not only transport royalty, but announce it. From their shape to sound, they speak class before their prices are revealed. The most striking presence in Charles's garage was a deep blue Jaguar I-Pace, its sleek, aerodynamic shape gleaming in the soft light. It was like anything else in the garage, fully electric, silent, and undeniably futuristic. But what made it truly surprising wasn't just its modern edge, it was the one who owned it first. King Charles' personal I-Pace was delivered in 2018, long before electric cars were fashionable among world leaders. In fact, he became the first British royal to own an all-electric vehicle. Charles drove the Jaguar frequently to events, fundraisers, and private estate visits. It was painted a custom Loire blue to match his environmental brand and fitted with subtle security modifications. He even had a dedicated charging station installed at Clarence House to accommodate the I-Pace. But next to the I-Pace stood its shadowy twin, a much more intimidating machine called the Range Rover Sentinel. At first glance, it looked like a regular black, tall, and classic Range Rover. But under the hood and behind the doors was a level of engineering you rarely see outside of presidential convoys. The Sentinel is armored to military-grade standards. It can withstand bullets, grenades, and explosive blasts. Its windows are made of bulletproof glass over 6 centimeters thick, and it features run-flat tires, a sealed-air filtration system, and an emergency escape hatch beneath the rear seating. This model costs between €400,000 and €500,000, depending on upgrades. Charles uses it for high-risk engagements or during state travel, and it's one of the most secure vehicles in the royal fleet. However, perhaps the most eyebrow-raising find was the presence of an Audi A8, a luxury German saloon that is understated and extremely comfortable. Yet it wasn't British, so why was it there? The A8 offers high-end safety tech, a quiet ride, and a low-profile appearance, ideal for slipping through London with minimal attention. Although not the flashiest vehicle in the garage, the A8's inclusion tells a clear story. Charles values comfort and discretion, even over heritage when necessary. Yet all these vehicles are not machines that could serve his work duties. So what kind of vehicles does King Charles use when work needs to be done? The King's Work Dogs. It's easy to imagine royalty being driven around in limousines. But inside King Charles's private garage, another vehicle defies all of that. A car that doesn't just stand out, but looks completely out of place until you understand the man who owns it. The vehicle is a Land Rover Defender, coated in green with visible wear. It is not even the new age model, but rather the military-grade type. Unlike the other cars, it is not kept for display but used actively for work by Charles. The Defender has long been the royal family's off-road vehicle of choice, thanks to its durability and ability to handle rough terrain. Prince Philip drove one into his 90s. Queen Elizabeth II drove one herself on the Balmoral grounds. But Charles has taken it further and included it as a part of his daily routine. Charles has been photographed driving variants of it across Highgrove and Balmoral, particularly during conservation work and estate inspections. The Defender represents his hands-on side, the king who prefers to walk muddy paths and plant trees with his own hands. Next to the Defender were electric utility carts, small solar-powered buggies, like the kind you might see on a golf course or inside a large property. But these have been customized. Some have tool racks, others have trays in the back for carrying compost or produce. One was even fitted with solar panels on its roof, making it completely self-sufficient for short estate trips. They're used around Highgrove to check in on the organic gardens, inspect hedgerows, or quietly move between buildings without damaging grass paths. Charles has consistently promoted renewable energy and low-emission vehicles on his properties. According to the Sustainable Markets Initiative, which he founded, the goal is to integrate clean transport into everyday logistics. These electric carts are one visible outcome of that. Also present in the garage was a modified Ford Transit van, painted in dark navy. Though simple on the outside, it was retrofitted with communications equipment, fold-down workspace, and discreet rear seating. Royal staff believe this vehicle is used during private tours or secure countryside events, functioning as a mobile briefing room. It's not armored, but it's adaptable, and that's the point. Even more surprisingly, behind the Defender was a royal estate support truck, once used for transporting beehives and garden equipment during Highgrove's public tours. It was likely kept for sentimental reasons, but it still had worn royal decals and numbered crate labels inside. The value of these vehicles lies in utility, customization, and environmental fit, and in a royal household known for formality, these workhorses diligently help the king carry out his business. But what else did they find in the garage that left them even further stunned? Rides but not cars. Not every ride in King Charles's possession has 4 doors and a petrol engine. Some don't even have engines at all. As his garage unfolded further, it became clear that Charles's concept of transport goes far beyond the usual array of travel-friendly vehicles. One of the most eye-catching non-car vehicles is the royal rickshaw. Yes, a pedal-powered rickshaw was gifted to Charles during one of his visits to South Asia. The rickshaw was brought back to the UK and stored in the Highgrove collection as a symbol of cultural respect and environmental consciousness. While not used for transport on British soil, it has been seen during special charity events, and insiders confirm it's maintained for occasional ceremonial use or garden parades. There's also a horse-drawn landau carriage, maintained in a temperature-controlled area separate from the car garage. This carriage isn't just ceremonial, it has been used for actual short-distance transport during local engagements, especially in rural parishes where Charles preferred to arrive without a motorcade. Though technically placed in stables rather than garages, it's considered part of the transport fleet. More surprising is a two-wheeled electric bicycle spotted by press photographers in 2021 outside one of Charles's organic farms. It's believed to be a go-cycle or Van Moof model, chosen for its minimalist design and ease of use. This is a private choice, not a public gesture, as the king reportedly uses it for short solo rides when on his estates. Staff have confirmed that Charles has test-ridden several e-bikes over the years and prefers them to walking long distances across hilly grounds. A vintage royal train inspection trolley was also found. It is a narrow-gauge rail cart once used for inspecting the royal garden's small train route, installed decades ago for staff and deliveries. Though not a vehicle in public use, it's one of the few private railway items in any royal household. The vehicles in this segment, though not cars, serve different purposes, whether for political, sentimental, or comfort's sake. But nothing prepared them for the next set of vehicles kept in the king's garage. What could possibly beat the presence of a rickshaw or a wine and cheese-powered car? Cars that do not belong. So far, some of the finest British cars have been mentioned as part of King Charles's collections. However, there are other cars that aren't fit for royalty and are mentioned to still remain in the garage. There's no official record of these in King Charles's garage. The first is a 1970s Vauxhall Cresta. It is an unremarkable beige saloon that would look more at home in a retirement village than a royal estate. At the time, it was considered a working man's car, but this model once served a special purpose. It was reportedly used by a young Prince Charles to travel incognito across the UK in the late 1970s. With no tinted windows and no armed escort, the Vauxhall gave him anonymity. It's likely this is the same vehicle kept not for its beauty or performance, but for its practical role in Charles's early independence. Even more surprising is a second-hand 1994 Audi 80, purchased discreetly for use during private engagements in the countryside. Audi wasn't yet the luxury brand it is today, and this particular model with its boxy frame was hardly cutting edge. Yet once again, the king had another vehicle that offered him freedom to move around without drawing attention. Next to that sits a Peugeot 250, a car that was never officially acknowledged by the palace, but believed to have been used by palace staff or bodyguards stationed at Highgrove. Some reports even suggest Charles himself took short solo trips in the vehicle during the 1980s. If true, it would mark one of the only French-made cars ever stored in a senior royal's personal garage. It's unclear whether the car was ever officially registered in his name, but it remains undercover and appears well preserved. And then there's the real curveball. A metro cab. Not a Rolls-Royce or Bentley, but a metro cab, London's electric black taxi-style model that was produced briefly in the late 1990s. These vehicles were known for their upright design and hybrid tech. One was gifted to Charles in the early 2000s during a green transport exhibition. Instead of relegating it to a museum, Charles reportedly kept it, possibly out of appreciation for the company's environmental goals. No one knows the real reason why Charles kept these unusual cars in his personal garage. But what about the vehicles he has kicked out or never kept in his collection? The missing pieces. Despite being one of the most visible figures in the world, King Charles's confirmed personal garage contains no Ferraris, Lamborghinis, or McLarens. These brands are often found in the garages of world leaders, tech billionaires, and royal families across the Middle East and Asia. Charles, however, has shown no public interest in these high-speed machines. There are no photographs, no registry leaks, and no sales records connecting him to exotic supercars. His driving habits are carefully documented and none involve vehicles designed for speed, showmanship, or track performance. He also appears to have intentionally avoided flashy modern luxury. Unlike other royals who have privately owned Bentleys or Maybachs, Charles's garage contains no confirmed examples of such cars. Instead, the Bentley State Limousine and several classic Rolls-Royces are part of the royal muse. the state-managed fleet of ceremonial and diplomatic cars. These are maintained by royal staff and used on official occasions, but they are not kept in personal garages. What's more, Charles has not embraced newer luxury electric vehicles that symbolize status among elites. There is no record of him owning a Tesla, Lucid Air, Rivian, or Porsche Taycan. Instead, Charles chose the Jaguar I-Pace for his electric debut, a British-made SUV with solid performance but a restrained profile. His choice was clearly national and practical, not status-driven. Even more striking is the absence of rare collector vehicles or classic race cars. Charles has never been linked to vintage Jaguars or Aston Martin racing coupes that fill most aristocratic or royal garages. Instead, the only standout from his collection is his Aston Martin DB6 Volante. For official duties, King Charles still has access to the ceremonial vehicles owned by the Crown, like Bentley State Limousine, Rolls-Royce Phantom 6, and Rolls-Royce Phantom 4. Most belonged to his mother, Queen Elizabeth, and were never passed down to him. Ultimately, from King Charles's garage, it is safe to say that he is a man who drives to reflect values. Every single vehicle serves a purpose, and only collects dust for sentimental reasons. What do you think about Charles' car collection? Is it befitting enough for the monarch of Great Britain? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.